The elevator chimed softly as Lin stepped out, heels clicking against the marble floor of Atlas Tech's towering headquarters. The building shimmered in sterile perfection, glass walls, silver steel, and people moving like clockwork. Everything about it screamed precision, control, and power. The kind of power that once destroyed her career. She adjusted her blazer, took a deep breath, and smiled at the receptionist as if she belonged here. Inside, her heart was pounding. She had waited 5 years for this. 5 years since the scandal. Since her name was quietly erased from the Helios project, her research seized, and her reputation buried under false accusations of data mishandling. 5 years since Nam, her former team lead, walked away unscathed, promoted even, while she was forced to resign in silence. Now, fate had a strange sense of irony. Atlas Tech had called her back. Ms. Lin Tran? The receptionist's voice broke her thoughts. Mr. Nam Nguyen will see you now. Top floor. Her smile didn't waver. Of course. As the elevator rose, Lin watched her reflection in the mirrored walls, calm, composed, unreadable. The image of a woman who had moved on. But behind that reflection was something colder. She wasn't here to rebuild her career. She was here to finish what they started. Nam's office was all clean lines and ambition, floor-to-ceiling glass, city lights bleeding into the room like molten gold. He stood by the window, older, sharper, still radiating that easy confidence that once fooled everyone. Lin, he said, turning to her with a practiced smile. It's been a long time. 5 years, she replied evenly. You look, well. And you look exactly like someone who doesn't age. He laughed softly, motioning her to sit. I'll be honest, when HR mentioned your name, I thought it was a mistake. But when I saw your resume, I knew I wanted you on my team. My team. The words scraped against her patience. I'm surprised, she said. After everything that happened at Neodata. He waved a hand dismissively. Water under the bridge. We were both victims of politics, Lin. I tried to protect you, but the board. She tilted her head slightly. You tried? He paused. Just for a second. Of course, he said. Look, things are different here. Atlas is growing fast, and I need people I can trust. You were always the smartest in the room. Trust. The irony almost made her laugh. She nodded, feigning gratitude. Thank you, Nam. I'll do my best. He smiled again, warm, professional, and utterly unaware that he was shaking hands with the person who planned to dismantle him piece by piece. By late evening, the office had emptied. Lin stayed behind, pretending to review data on the new Helios 2.0 project, the company's crown jewel, rumored to revolutionize predictive AI modeling. Her fingers hovered over the files, her eyes sharp. The codebase naming conventions were familiar, too familiar. A strange sense of déjà vu hit her. The architecture, the syntax, the embedded encryption layers, she had written those once. It wasn't a new project. It was a resurrected version of her stolen work. Her pulse spiked. Every detail confirmed it. The stolen project she was accused of mishandling 5 years ago had become Atlas's multi-billion-dollar product. And Nam was listed as the lead architect. She sat back, eyes cold. You didn't just ruin me, she whispered to the empty room. You built your empire on my ashes. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number flashed across the screen. You're not the only one who remembers what they did. Don't trust anyone. Especially him. She froze. Looked around the dark office. The faint reflection of her own face stared back from the monitor. Someone was watching. She closed her laptop, gathered her things, and left without turning the lights off. But as she walked down the hall, she caught a glimpse of Nam in the reflection of the glass wall, still in his office, on a call. His tone was low, controlled. No, she doesn't suspect anything, he said into the phone. Yes, I'll keep her close. Just like before. Lin's breath caught. Her mind sharpened instantly, like glass snapping into focus. So that was his plan. She turned away, forcing her steps to stay light, calm, casual. The moment the elevator doors closed, her expression changed, the facade melted into something fierce, dangerous, and alive. Fine, she murmured to her reflection. You want me close? Then I'll be very close. Her smile returned, colder this time. She would play the perfect employee. The perfect confidant. Even the perfect lover, if that's what it took. Until the moment she found what she came for, proof of his crime, and the leverage to destroy everything he built. The game had just begun. The next morning, Lynn arrived earlier than anyone else. She wanted to study the rhythm of the office before it woke up, who arrived first, who lingered late, who whispered near the elevators. Every corporation had its predators and its prey. She just had to find out which one Nam was. When he entered at 8:45 sharp, the air shifted. Laughter trailed behind him as if his confidence alone bent the atmosphere. People smiled, greeted him like he was the heartbeat of Atlas Tech. Lynn watched quietly, sipping her coffee. She'd spent years learning how to hide in plain sight, how to appear cooperative, charming, harmless. It was a role she'd play again now, but this time, she was writing the script. Nam noticed her almost instantly. You're early, he said, surprised. She smiled softly. I couldn't sleep. Too much data, too little caffeine. He laughed. Still the same Lynn. You work like the rest of us are lazy. You said this project mattered. She met his eyes. I wanted to prove you were right to hire me. His expression softened, that perfect blend of pride and calculation. You don't need to prove anything. You've already exceeded my expectations. Her lips curved upward. Good. Start trusting me. By the end of the week, their late-night collaborations had become a habit. They'd sit in the glass-walled meeting room, city lights sprawling beneath them like a digital ocean. Sometimes, he'd order takeout, sometimes, he'd bring wine to celebrate small victories. Lynn never refused. She let him believe the boundaries were blurring. That maybe, just maybe, something human was growing between them. Every time he leaned closer, she tilted her head, smiled, but never stepped back. It wasn't seduction. It was strategy. Yet, sometimes, when his eyes softened and his tone lowered, she felt the faintest tug of confusion. There was sincerity there, or the illusion of it so perfectly rehearsed that it could fool anyone. One night, after hours of debugging, Nam leaned back, watching her. You know, he said quietly, I always regretted what happened at Neodata. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. He continued, voice low, careful. I didn't want to testify against you. But I had no choice. The board needed someone to blame, and it was either you or me. She looked up slowly. So you let them destroy me? His jaw tightened. I tried to fix it later, but they'd already blacklisted your name. Stop. Her tone was soft, but the word landed sharp. Let's not rewrite history. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You don't understand the pressure I was under. I had people threatening my position, my family. Lynn watched him closely. He's lying, but not entirely. There was fear behind his arrogance. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. You want me to believe you were just another victim? He looked at her then, really looked, searching for judgment, maybe forgiveness. I want you to believe I've changed. Silence stretched between them. The city's glow painted their reflections on the glass, two silhouettes caught between confession and deception. Finally, Lynn smiled faintly. Then prove it. How? Let me help you with Helios's finance reports. I want to understand the full scope of the budget. If I'm leading part of the modeling team, I should know where the funding flows. A flicker of hesitation crossed his eyes. Got you, she thought. But he recovered quickly. Fine, he said. I'll send you limited access. Just keep this between us. The board doesn't like too many eyes on their numbers. Her pulse steadied. Perfect. That night, alone in her apartment, Lynn opened the encrypted files Nam had shared. Rows of numbers and transfers blurred across her screen, funding allocations, shell companies, foreign accounts. Most people would see nothing unusual. But she did. Because she recognized the account IDs. They matched the ones from 5 years ago, the ones used to drain the Neodata Research Fund before she was accused of embezzlement. It wasn't coincidence. It was continuation. The same operation, reborn under a new corporate name. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through page after page. Millions had been rerouted through invisible channels, money that should have gone into research, disappearing into black accounts named things like Solar Dynamics Ltd. And Helios Omega Foundation. Atlas Tech wasn't a tech company. It was a laundering machine. She leaned back, exhaling sharply. "You've been doing this the whole time," she whispered. "And now you want me close enough to cover your tracks." But then, her phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. "Don't look too deep. They're watching your terminal." Her heart skipped. She yanked out her laptop's network cable just as her screen flickered. Someone had remotely accessed her session. A single line appeared on the terminal before the system locked her out. "Who are you really, Lynn?" She stared at the words, pulse racing. Whoever sent that warning wasn't Nam. There was another player in the shadows, one who knew both sides of the game. The next morning, Nam approached her desk, casual smile in place. "Rough night?" "You look tired." Lynn forced a laugh. "Just a bug in the system. Nothing serious." "Need me to look at it?" he offered. She shook her head. "No. I've got it handled." But as he walked away, she caught her reflection in the monitor again, calm, unreadable, but her eyes burned with purpose. If Nam was keeping secrets, so was she. And if he wanted to play this game of masks and mirrors, then she'd be the better liar. That evening, she stood outside his office once more, this time wearing a silk blouse instead of her usual blazer. He looked up, surprised as she stepped in, closing the door behind her. "I thought we could talk," she said quietly. "No code. No data. Just talk." Nam's smile returned, slow and certain. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" She met his gaze, unwavering. "Maybe not. But you said you've changed. I want to see how much." He hesitated, then gestured for her to sit. Lynn smiled, small, deliberate, and dangerous. Because tonight wasn't about romance. It was about control. And she'd already taken the first move. Is almost equal to 895 words. The rain had begun before dawn, soft at first, then relentless, like the city itself wanted to wash something away. Lynn sat by her apartment window, watching drops slide down the glass. She hadn't slept. Every number, every transaction from the files Nam had shared, replayed in her mind like a coded confession. The same shell accounts. The same hidden transfers. The same pattern of theft that had ruined her life. Atlas Tech wasn't just corrupt, it was continuing the very crime she'd once been blamed for. She turned back to her laptop, booted a secure offline system, and loaded the copy of Nam's financial archive she'd saved before the hack attempt. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start connecting the dots. One folder drew her attention, Helios Legacy _5YR_backup. It was an archive Nam had probably forgotten about, buried deep in a mirrored directory. Inside were old project prototypes, deleted chat logs, and early development code for the Helios 2.0 AI. The first file made her stomach drop. Author L.Tran. Timestamp, July 14th to 5th years ago. Her name. Her work. Her original code. She stared at it for a long time, hand trembling slightly. Then she opened the source file. Every line was hers, the architecture she designed to simulate human intuition through machine learning. Her formula, her logic, her rhythm. And yet, in the official documentation, the credits listed Nam and 2 senior executives. He had erased her name, stolen her intellectual property, and rebuilt his empire on it. "Got you," she whispered, a mixture of rage and relief twisting inside her. She scrolled down to the last few lines of code. Someone had made modifications, encrypted data blocks appended after her signature. Out of curiosity, she decrypted one using her old algorithm. What emerged made her freeze. A string of internal emails. Her eyes widened as she read the first. From Nam Nguyen to CEO_Thin at Atlas Tech. The transfer is done. She suspects nothing. Once we frame her for the breach, I'll make sure all original authorship logs are purged. No trail. Helios belongs to us now. Lin's breath caught. A dull roar filled her ears. There it was, the evidence she'd waited half a decade for. Proof that she had been set up. Hours later, she walked into Atlas Tech as if nothing had happened. Her eyes hid the storm. Nam greeted her near the elevators. "Morning, you look different today." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I finally slept." "Good," he said. "Because the board wants to review our Helios demo next week. Big opportunity. Investors from Singapore are flying in." "Perfect," she replied, voice calm but sharp beneath the surface. "Let's make sure we give them something unforgettable." He chuckled, unaware of the blade she was already sharpening. At lunch, Lin found herself sitting alone in the cafeteria until a voice broke her solitude. "Still prefer eating in silence, I see." She looked up. It was a cybersecurity engineer she vaguely remembered from the Neodata days. He looked different now, older, with the faint exhaustion of someone who'd seen too much. "And," she said carefully. "It's been a while." 5 years, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Funny how time circles back, huh?" She studied him. "You work here now?" "Used to," he corrected. "Atlas doesn't keep people like me long. I ask too many questions." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're in deep with Nam, aren't you?" Her pulse spiked. "Why do you ask?" "Because you're being monitored," he said quietly. "Your workstation logs, your access times, they're flagged. Someone's watching every keystroke." Lin froze. "How do you know that?" He glanced around. "Because I'm the one who installed the surveillance system." For a moment, neither spoke. The cafeteria noise seemed to fade into a blur. "Then why tell me?" she asked finally. "Because I know what he did to you. What he did to all of us." His eyes hardened. "You think Atlas just stole your project?" "They stole mine too, my encryption framework. Used it to bury their crimes. You and I are ghosts in their machine." Lin's voice steadied. "Then help me expose them." He gave a humorless laugh. "You think you can bring them down with one email thread? This company's got layers of protection, legal, digital, and human. They'll erase you before your story reaches the press." "Then we don't go to the press," she said. "We go to their pride, the one place they can't control. The presentation." He frowned. "The investor showcase?" "Exactly. The whole world will be watching. If I can plant the proof inside the live demo feed and cut her off, you'll need root access to the Helios servers. That's suicide." She met his gaze without blinking. "Maybe. But it's justice." He stared at her for a moment longer, then nodded slowly. "You really haven't changed." "Neither have they," she replied. He slid a small flash drive across the table. "This'll get you past the first firewall. After that, you're on your own." That evening, Lin stayed late again. The building grew quiet, the hum of air conditioning her only companion. Through the glass, she could see Nam still in his office, pacing during a phone call, looking troubled. She slipped the flash drive into her system and executed the first bypass. Lines of code flickered across the screen like ghostly fingerprints. She navigated through Atlas's encrypted directories until she found the live Helios server, the digital core of everything the company guarded. Inside was a vault of data, financial records, client contracts, classified prototypes. But one folder pulsed like a heartbeat, Helios_Omega. She hesitated, remembering what it had said, it's suicide. Then she opened it. Instantly, a rush of encrypted streams filled the screen, video files, hidden logs, and an access feed from internal cameras. One video thumbnail caught her eye, dated 5 years ago, labeled boardroom_incident.mp4. She clicked play. On screen, a younger Nam stood before the board, nervously defending his decision to blame Lin for the data breach. CEO Thin's voice echoed through the speakers, "We need a scapegoat. Make sure the evidence points to her. Once she's out, Helios is ours." The room fell silent. Then Nam nodded. Understood. Lin slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. Her reflection glared back at her from the dark screen, cold, shaking, alive with purpose. Now she had everything, proof of theft, conspiracy, and betrayal. But somewhere deep in the system, a red warning blinked. Security breach detected. The door to her office creaked open behind her. Working late again? Nam's voice drifted in, calm, curious. She forced herself to smile, fingers casually hovering over the power button. Just finishing up the analytics reports. He stepped closer, eyes scanning her desk. You're always working. I admire that. Old habits die hard, she said lightly. He smiled, but something in his gaze had changed, sharper, suspicious. Well, he said finally, don't stay too late. The system logs everything these days. When the door closed behind him, Lin exhaled slowly, her pulse racing. He knew something. But it didn't matter anymore. Because now, she had the truth. And soon, the whole world would too. Lin had learned to live between lies. It was where she breathed best, in the quiet tension between truth and illusion. 3 days had passed since she found the video. 3 days since she confirmed that Atlas Tech was built on theft and deceit, and that Nam, the man she'd once trusted, the man she now pretended to love, had been the one to deliver her to the slaughter. And yet, every morning, she greeted him with a smile. Because the only way to win was to let him think he'd already won. The week began with chaos disguised as order. The board was in a frenzy preparing for the upcoming investor showcase. Every division worked overtime, meetings bled into nights. Nam thrived in it, commanding, charming, every inch the confident leader Atlas needed. Lin played her part to perfection, the capable subordinate, the quiet genius at his side. She handled data, coordinated deadlines, shared coffee breaks and inside jokes. She became indispensable. But in the silence of her office after midnight, she was someone else. The flash drive from N was always hidden inside a hollowed pen on her desk, a lifeline of stolen access. Each night, she crept deeper into the Helios Omega servers, mapping the architecture of Atlas's empire. Every line of code was a wall of deceit, finance masking corruption, research masking espionage. She was building her own fortress out of secrets. Nam began to notice her presence differently. At first, it was just admiration, the way he lingered near her desk, the small compliments about her insight, her loyalty. But now there was something else, caution. During one evening meeting, as rain hammered the glass walls, Nam closed his laptop and leaned back. "You've been quiet lately," he said, watching her. She kept her voice soft. "Just focused." He smiled faintly. "You've always been focused. But lately, it feels like you're focused on me." She froze for a heartbeat, then let out a small laugh. "You sound paranoid." "Maybe I am." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You remind me of the Lin from Neodata, brilliant, fearless, always 2 steps ahead of everyone." "I thought you said that Lin was gone," she replied, tone gentle but sharp underneath. He paused. "Maybe she's just hiding." Their eyes met, a battle of masks. Neither blinked. Finally, he smiled again, the easy, rehearsed smile of a man who believed he was still in control. Get some rest. Tomorrow's review will be brutal. As he left the room, Lynn exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled just slightly on the table. He was suspicious. But not certain. Not yet. Later that night, she met him in the deserted parking lot. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled of metal and electricity. He handed her a small device, a sleek, matte black drive. This will let you upload the proof into the Helios presentation server, he said. Once the CEO plays that demo, every screen in the world watching will see the real files. Lynn turned the device in her hand. And you're sure it'll work? And smirked. I built the system. I know where the bones are buried. She nodded. Good. Then we moved during the rehearsal window. 48 hours. He hesitated. You trust me now? Her gaze was steady. I don't trust anyone. But I need you. He gave a short laugh. Fair enough. Then his tone shifted. You should know, Nam isn't your biggest problem. Thịnh has been moving money again, someone's pulling data off-site, probably to erase every trace before the event. Lynn's chest tightened. So they're preparing for exposure. Or worse, for sacrifice, and said. If something goes wrong, Thịnh will feed Nam to the wolves. Same play they used on you. She looked away, the memory slicing through her composure. Then I'll make sure they burn together. The next morning, Nam invited her into his office under the pretense of reviewing data sets. But the moment she sat, he locked the door. Close your laptop, he said quietly. She obeyed, pulse steady. What's this about? He leaned against his desk, arms folded. You've been accessing restricted servers. Her mind raced, but her face stayed calm. I needed source logs for anomaly tracking. You gave me clearance. Not for Helios Omega. The silence between them thickened. The hum of the city outside seemed distant. Then, he stepped closer. You're hiding something, Lynn. She met his gaze head-on. So are you. That startled him, a half-second flicker of vulnerability before his mask returned. I'm trying to protect this company, he said. By laundering millions through ghost accounts? By stealing my work? His expression cracked. You think I wanted any of that, he snapped. You don't understand what it takes to survive here. She rose from her chair slowly, her voice low but cutting. Oh, I understand perfectly. I just never planned to rot like you. For a moment, the facade between them vanished, two predators staring at each other across a narrow space. Then, just as quickly, she softened her tone. I'm sorry. That was unfair. He exhaled, shoulders dropping. It's fine. We're both under pressure. She offered a faint smile, stepping closer, close enough for her perfume to reach him, close enough for him to forget the suspicion. Let me make it up to you, she murmured. Dinner. Tonight. His guard faltered. Dinner? Just two colleagues trying to survive. He hesitated, then nodded. 8 o'clock. As she left, her reflection in the glass door caught her eye, a composed, confident, merciless. It wasn't seduction anymore. It was war. That evening, in the restaurant's soft amber light, Lynn laughed when Nam poured wine, listened as he spoke of pressure and loyalty, and smiled when he touched her hand. To anyone watching, they looked like lovers falling in slow motion. But beneath the table, her phone quietly uploaded the encrypted files into Atlas Tech's presentation server, masked as a firmware update. When the upload completed, she lifted her glass. To survival, she said. Nam clinked his glass to hers. To new beginnings. She smiled. For you, it will be an ending. Later, as she returned home, another message flashed on her phone. It wasn't from him this time. You moved faster than expected. They know. Don't come in tomorrow. Her breath caught. A chill ran through her. The text had no signature. And for the first time, she wondered who was really pulling the strings behind Atlas Tech. The city glowed like circuitry beneath the night, cold and endless. Lynn sat motionless in her car, the dashboard light washing her face in pale blue. The message on her phone still burned on the screen. You moved faster than expected. They know. Don't come in tomorrow. No name. No number. Just that. Her pulse beat hard against her ribs. For the first time since this began, she felt the edge of fear slip beneath her control. Someone inside Atlas was watching everything, not just Nom, not in someone higher. Someone who could see the whole board. She exhaled slowly, trying to think. Running wasn't an option. Not yet. The proof was already in the system, her upload to the Helios presentation server. If she disappeared now, they'd bury it before the showcase. No. She'd gone too far to vanish. She needed information, and whoever sent that message clearly had plenty of it. At 3:07 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. T27. 8 a.m. Bring nothing that connects to Atlas. Trust no one. T27, she whispered. The 27th floor, the old research division, sealed off after the merger scandal 3 years ago. She hesitated, then typed one word back. Who are you? The reply came instantly. Someone who knows what they did to you. Her heart skipped. At 7:58 a.m., she stood before the darkened glass doors of the 27th floor. The lights were off, dust layering the walls, the air thick with the smell of old circuits. The elevator had refused to stop here, she'd had to use the emergency stairs. Perfect place for ghosts, she murmured. She pushed the door open. Inside, dim light flickered from a cluster of old server racks still humming faintly. Shadows moved beyond the rows. She tensed, her hand instinctively reaching for the stun pen in her pocket, a habit from her days in data recovery. Relax, a man's voice said. A figure stepped into view, tall, lean, late 30s. Dark hair, eyes sharp and tired. And she asked, surprised. He shook his head. Close. My name's Min. I worked under him. Before Atlas burned the old Helios division to the ground. Her guard stayed up. Then why contact me? He gestured toward a flickering monitor. Because you've done what no one else dared. You got inside Omega. Lynn froze. You know about Omega? I built half of it, he said. Then Thin and Nom took my work, rewired it into their laundering network. When I tried to leak it, they framed me as a hacker. Same pattern they used on you. He walked closer, pulling a flash drive from his coat pocket. Everything you found is just the surface. The real heart of Omega isn't in the servers, it's in the presentation system itself. It's designed to sync globally. The moment the showcase begins, Helios connects to every partner database around the world. One file, one line of code, can infect them all. Lynn's mind raced. So if I insert the proof there? It'll broadcast to every network that touches Atlas Tech, he finished. You won't just expose them, you'll collapse their infrastructure. Good, she said coldly. He frowned. It's not that simple. If you trigger it wrong, it'll crash half their AI networks, hospitals, security systems, financial partners. You'd burn innocent people too. Lynn looked away, her jaw tight. They didn't care about innocent people when they ruined us. Min studied her. Maybe. But do you want justice, or just revenge? The question hung in the silence like a blade. Before she could answer, the faint hum of an elevator echoed through the floor. Min's expression darkened. They found us. He moved fast, shutting down the monitors. There's a side exit through the maintenance shaft. Go. What about you? I'll stall them. You're the only one with the access keys. He shoved the flash drive into her hand. You'll need this for the final upload. It'll override the global encryption. Then he looked at her, steady, unflinching. Finish it. The door burst open behind them, security agents in dark suits, faces unreadable. Min turned, hands raised. She's not here, he said. You're wasting your... A gunshot cut him off. Lin didn't look back. She ran. By the time she reached the street, the morning sun had risen, washing the city in gold that felt too bright, too cruel. Her clothes were damp from sweat and rainwater. The flash drive in her hand felt heavy, like a living thing. She walked aimlessly for blocks until the sound of her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You shouldn't have gone there. Min's dead. They'll come for you next. Her breath hitched. Who is this? She whispered. Another text came. A friend. But if you want to survive, you'll have to make them believe you're on their side again. She stopped on the sidewalk, heart pounding. Go back into the fire. How? She typed. Nam trusts you. Make him need you more. Then get him to open the system for final rehearsal. That's your only window. Her mind spun. Whoever this was, they knew too much. Every move, every risk, every plan. Why are you helping me? The reply came after a pause. Because Atlas killed my sister. Her name was Tran. She worked under you once. Lin froze. The air left her lungs. Her research assistant at Neodata. The one who'd disappeared after the scandal, presumed to have fled abroad. She didn't run, Lin whispered. They killed her? Yes. And now you'll finish what she started. Lin's hand tightened around the flash drive until her knuckles went white. That night, she stood before the mirror in her apartment, staring at the reflection of a woman she barely recognized, cold, composed, dangerous. She thought of Min bleeding on the server floor, of Mai's name hidden in some forgotten database, of Nam smiling like nothing had ever happened. Enough pretending. She picked up her phone and dialed Nam's number. He answered on the second ring, his tone casual. Couldn't stay away? Her voice was steady. I have an idea for the final showcase. Something that will make Helios unforgettable. He chuckled. I'm listening. You'll have to trust me, she said. This will change everything. He paused, curious, intrigued, unaware that her words were a promise. Then let's make history, he said finally. Oh, Lin whispered to herself after hanging up, eyes dark and unblinking. We will. Atlas Tech buzzed like a beehive on the edge of explosion. The investor showcase was only 3 days away, and every corridor hummed with tension, engineers, analysts, executives, all preparing for the most important presentation in the company's history. To everyone else, it was about prestige and profit. To Lin, it was about justice and destruction. Nam's office had become her second home, glass walls, untouched whiskey, the faint scent of cedar and control. He'd started calling her his right hand, bringing her into meetings, letting her see what few others could. But she wasn't there to serve. She was there to watch him crumble from within. That morning, Nam poured coffee for both of them, uncharacteristically soft-spoken. You've been brilliant lately, he said, handing her a cup. You've done more in a month than most people here manage in a year. Lin smiled faintly. That's generous of you. It's true, he insisted. You've given me something I didn't know I needed. Her fingers paused on the cup. And what's that? Trust. She looked up, meeting his gaze. You think you can trust me? He chuckled. I want to. The words made her chest tighten for a brief second, just enough to make her angry at herself. She couldn't afford to feel. Not now. Then prove it, she said evenly. Give me full access to Helios for the demo simulation. I can optimize the transition rate. He hesitated, a crack in his charm. The board doesn't allow that kind of clearance. She tilted her head. You just said you trust me. A long silence followed, the kind that measured power. Finally, he sighed. Fine. But this stays between us. She smiled, a victory that tasted like guilt. Hours later, while the rest of the office celebrated an early lunch break, Lynn slipped into the Helios control room. The walls pulsed with screens showing real-time data streams. She plugged Min's override flash drive into the terminal. The screen flickered, loading the hidden folder tree she needed, encrypted paths deep inside the presentation system. Each node represented one part of Atlas's empire, partner companies, data feeds, AI infrastructure. She traced them carefully, planning the insertion point for the files that would expose Thịnh and Nam during the live showcase. She typed a line of code. Then another. And paused. Something was off. The system was reacting slower than usual, as if another user was mirroring her session. A chill rippled through her. She opened the admin console and froze when she saw the username connected remotely. _Tran. Her pulse quickened. Anne's dead. Impossible, she whispered. But then the chat window popped open. A message appeared on her screen. You shouldn't trust Min. He was never on your side. Her breath caught. Another line followed. He worked for Thịnh. You walked into their trap. No, Lynn muttered, shaking her head. Another message appeared, final and chilling. They wanted you to plant the file. That's how they traced the leak. Before she could respond, the session terminated. The connection cut instantly, like a hand yanking a plug out of a wall. The screen went black. She backed away from the console, heartbeat thundering. The override drive was still warm in her hand. Min's face flashed in her mind, his warning, his sacrifice, his insistence she finish it. Had it all been staged? Had he died just to sell the illusion of loyalty? Lynn barely noticed the sound of the door opening behind her until she heard Nam's voice. Everything okay? She spun around too quickly. Yes. Just running a system test. He stepped closer, eyes scanning the terminal. You look pale. Lack of sleep. He smiled gently. You've been pushing too hard. She forced a small laugh. So have you. For a second, they just stood there, two liars wrapped in silence. Then Nam's phone buzzed. He frowned, checked it, and his expression changed. The CEO wants me upstairs. Apparently, the finance audits hit a snag. Her heart jumped. What kind of snag? He shrugged. No idea. But Thịnh sounded nervous. As soon as he left, Lynn reopened the system. The root folder she'd accessed moments ago was gone. Deleted. Every trace of Min's override had vanished. Her hands shook as she typed into the recovery terminal. No results. Someone had scrubbed it clean. She stared at the empty screen, realization settling in like ice. She wasn't ahead of the game anymore, she was inside it. That evening, she waited in Nam's office after hours, the skyline glowing behind her. He entered looking exhausted, tie loose, phone still pressed to his ear. Yes, I'll handle it, he said before hanging up. He looked at her. You heard? About the audit? He nodded. Thịnh thinks there's a mole. Data leaks, unauthorized access. He's panicking. Pulled the cybersecurity team off everything else. Does he know who? Nam hesitated. He suspects you. Lynn's blood turned to ice. Me? He won't act yet, Nam said quickly. I told him it was impossible. That you're clean. But Lynn, he stopped, searching her face. You need to tell me the truth. Have you been in places you shouldn't be? Her voice was calm, almost cold. Would you believe me if I said no? He stared at her for a long moment, then looked away. I want to. That's not the same as believing. No, he said softly. It isn't. The air between them grew sharp, thick with something dangerous. She stepped closer, forcing him to look at her. You're protecting a man who'd throw you to the wolves the moment things go wrong. And you're playing with something that could destroy us all, he countered. Maybe we deserve it. Their eyes locked, fire against glass, guilt against fury. Finally, Nam broke the silence. We both made choices. Let's just make sure we survive them. When he left, Lin sank into his chair, staring out over the city. She opened her phone and scrolled through her messages, nothing new from the anonymous number. No new warnings. No instructions. Just the empty reflection of herself in the black glass of the window, alone, cornered, and hunted. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. She whispered into the silence, "You wanted a double game, Nam. Let's see who wins." Then she opened a new encrypted channel and typed a single line of code into the system, one that would activate automatically during the showcase, no matter who tried to stop it. In a nearby office, security logs flickered to life. An automated alert flagged her name. And on another floor, CEO Thịnh watched the screen in silence, eyes narrowing. Finally, he murmured. She made her move.
Part 2 is still on the channel. Please watch and follow.